How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 4, Episode 6, and this one's entitled The Grave Robbers. It originally aired November 1st, 1987. This episode is directed by Jeff Schiro and stars Arnold Stang, Polly Draper, and Daren Kelly. And it looks like we finally got our Mummy episode. If you guys remember my review for Season 4, Episode 1, the episode Beatles, that episode acted like it was going to be a Mummy episode, but then goes, oh, surprise, we're doing a Beetle curse episode. And I said it would have been better if the Mummy did just get up and walk around, and now we finally have that episode. We got another Mummy episode really quickly, and this mummy actually gets up and he walks, but he also talks, and that's the big thing with this episode. The mummy talks, and he's actually got quite a bit of personality and a bit of humor behind him. And I do like that idea. I do like that shift. That saying, hey, this is a mummy. He is undead and he's just waiting around in this crypt for like thousands of years. Of course he would be bored, and of course he would want to talk to someone. And the idea of making the mummy a funny character, that's kinda different. And I also really like this mummy's design. He's got a bunch of bandages on him, and they're really layered, and they make this sense of texture. He's a really cool looking mummy. Big necklace with a giant ankh on it. I thought his design was really cool. That being said though, you guys know how I am about the humorous episodes. I'm not always the biggest fan of when Darkside tries to go funny. This episode came out okay though. Some of the jokes did land, like when they say, oh, we know who you are, you're a very famous mummy, this is your name, and then he's all flattered, but then he realizes, hey, you just read that off my sarcophagus, you don't really know who I am. And then there's a joke later where he's telling a story about his life, and he refers to it as the one good moment in my whole entire life. I thought some of the jokes were funny, but sadly a lot of them just didn't land. Hey, we're gonna tell the mummy a riddle, and the answer is going to be the Sphinx? Yeah, of course he's gonna get that one. Why would you not think that? Ask what's in your pocket. And a large part of this episode is, oh, the mummy's from the past, he doesn't know our games, we're gonna try to swindle him. It's a little funny, but it doesn't really play it off as much as it could have. The female grave robber in this episode is a really big personality, and I did like her. And her playing back and forth with the mummy and then kind of throwing the male grave robber under the bus. There were a few kind of funny moments, but it just never really landed. And I think a lot of the jokes really should have been much more hard-hitting and much more biting. Because I'm watching this episode and I'm thinking, okay, it's kind of funny, but I was never really laughing and I was never really getting super invested. And I think maybe back in time this was much more of a novel thing to say, hey, here's a classic monster, but now he's funny. We get a lot more parodies nowadays, especially after YouTube opened up. But you know what? Watching this episode, I can say it's okay. It's a good idea. It could have been better, but you know what? We actually have the mummy walking around, and the idea that he would be so bored after so long, I like that. It's a good, solid foundation. So overall, not my strongest recommendation, but maybe if you are fans of the funny episodes, maybe you'll like this one. But anyway, from here on out, I do want to talk a bit about the plot. I want to break down and analyze a few things and say my piece on the episode. I'll be avoiding the end bits, so no major spoilers, but from here on out, let's take a bit of a deeper dive. We open up with our two titular grave robbers, and they have a local guide, and they're being relatively upfront. We want to get the treasures and make some money, and we think we know where an undiscovered tomb is that should be full of gold and riches. They find the door, and just when they're about to blow it opens by itself, and they walk in. Well, the first chamber isn't the big pharaoh's tomb, it's the tomb of the guy who's supposed to guard guard the pharaoh. They find his sarcophagus and open him up, and he's wrapped up in there, and he's got a big golden necklace with an ankh on it, and the guide is about to take the necklace, and the two grave robbers say, hey, let's actually go into the pharaoh's chamber first, and then we can come back and get all this other stuff, because the stuff in the main chamber, that's where the big high-ticket items are. But as soon as the grave robbers walk away, the guide decides, hey, what if I do try to take this necklace? And wouldn't you know it, the mummy that's supposed to be guarding the tomb does in fact wake up and kill their guide. And that happens pretty early on. The episode just started and the mummy's already up and at him. But then the thing that sets the plot going is this mummy actually talks. And they say, what? How do you speak English? Apparently it's part of his magic. Whoever breaks into his tomb, he can just speak their language. And they try to say, oh, we're historians, we just want to understand your culture, which we of course know is a lie. And the mummy apparently isn't buying it either, and it turns out the mummy does have super strength, and it has closed the door behind them, so they're in a bit of a predicament. The thing that does save them though, is the mummy says it's been hundreds of years since the last person tried to break into this tomb, and I don't know how long it will be until the next person tries, so I need to have some fun with you before I kill you, in order to make some good memories that will keep me occupied for the next 500 or so years. And it turns out the female grave robber is kind of a crafty character, and she'll start to talk and engage with the mummy and say, hey, if you want to take your time killing us, yeah, maybe you should take your time, and bounce that back and forth with taunting like, oh, I don't think you're really going to kill us, and try to get him to question himself a little bit. But eventually they see the mummy wants to be entertained, so they start to play games with the mummy, and of course the female archaeologist is going to be throwing the male one under the bus a few times and have him be sort of the front line in these games, and eventually it'll boil down to a game of poker, and the mummy, it turns out, actually knew an old Egyptian form of strip poker, so they're literally going to play that with a mummy, and the female archaeologist says, if we win a game of strip poker, take all his bandages, maybe there won't be enough of him left, and maybe unwrapping the mummy will cause him to disintegrate. But of course, it's not going to be the easiest task ever. And when I say strip poker, it's nothing too crazy. I mean, this is 1980s TV, and it's only the guy and the mummy playing. It's not going to get off the rails or anything. And from there, you of course get some more funny moments and some twists and turns, and I think a few moments towards the end do play out pretty well, and I thought the ending of this episode, while I kind of knew we were going there, it did turn out to be a cool Darkside ending. So yeah, what can I say? The episode's okay. I like the idea of a bored mummy, and I like the idea of him being a funny character, but yeah, the humor didn't quite bite strong enough for me. I do wish it was funnier, but for what it is, a totally passable episode, and I did really like his design too. So yeah, not the strongest recommendation or anything, but if you are fans of the funny ones, you'll probably like it. Anyway, all that being said, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about past episodes of the show, you should be able to find them there. And actually, I did cover the next episode, the Yattering and Jack, a long time ago for Christmas. So if you want to see the next episode's review, you can also find that there. Although be warned, that is kind of an old review, but whatever. Anyway though, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.